Hi friends, day 19, Rediscovering Jesus. Today it's about miracles abounding. In daily life we're surrounded by miracles. I often have the pleasure of talking to our young people in regards to their belief in miracles and how miracles are around us each day. Matthew asks us today, what's your favorite miracle in the scriptures? I wonder what your answer is. For me, my favorite miracle is the raising of Lazarus. The fact that Jesus had enough compassion, not just for Lazarus to give him a second chance on life, but that he was moved by the sorrow of Mary and Martha, that he would bring Lazarus back to life. Because this actually talks about the resurrection of his own body and the fact that our loved ones, we will see them again. As grief has touched my life, and likely for all, if not all of you, most of you, this is also true. But for me, that's my answer, and yours may be similar or different. The other miracle I like to focus on for entirely different reasons is the calming of the storm. I know that I've often been afraid in my life, and I've called out to God as the disciples were desperate to do the same. But Jesus' ability to calm the storm says that there's nothing beyond his power. And as much as I know that up here, sometimes in my life God has to remind me in very subtle and sometimes very obvious ways. What's that miracle that you like the most? In the Old Testament, by the way, my favorite miracle is one of the most popular ones, but Moses' parting of the Red Sea. For those of you who are in my Bible study, you know that we've spent much time on the Exodus story and the significance of Moses and God using him as his instrument in the parting of the Red Sea so that the people can flee Pharaoh, walking on the ground with water on their left and on their right. But have we ever thought of the miracle of the forgiveness of sin, specifically in the sacrament of reconciliation? In 6 days from now, on March the 29th, each of us will have an opportunity to have priests from across the diocese to hear our confessions. And of course, priests are mere instruments of God's work. It is God who forgives sins, not the priest. The priest acts as God forgives. He says the words, but it's in the ministry of the church, may God grant you pardon and peace, and I absolve you of your sin, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. So the idea that only God can forgive sin is such a powerful miracle that I wonder how many of us take for granted. I know I do at times. What a beautiful question Matthew gives us today. Would you truly forgive someone if you know that they're going to do it again and again and again, whatever harm they've caused you? And while you might say, well, yeah, I do this with my kids all the time. Let's think about it not in, did you do your homework? Yeah, and then they didn't. What about significant sins? Because for many of us, we are significantly doing the same thing over and over by offending God. And we don't often think about it because it makes us feel bad, but the reality is we do it. And why is that okay? Well, God still loves us and forgives us even though we do it time and time again. But Jesus' invitation is to bring the miracle of his love to others, talks about this merciful God. We know in the Psalms, the Lord is kind and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. Well, as he forgives us, he calls us to forgive in the Lord's Prayer. And we've talked about that many times through our Lenten journey here. But this idea of the miracle of forgiveness of sin. Am I willing to forgive as God forgives me? Matthew talks about the importance of Jesus seeking out those who are suffering and how his friend at parties and gatherings often tries to identify with the person who might be most in pain or suffering according to his perception. Would you or I do something like that? If we've done that in the past, why don't we do it more? Didn't we find true happiness when we reached out to someone? Or perhaps when we were going through suffering and someone at the party or social gathering spent time with us and gave us more than the time of day that we might have expected. Or perhaps someone who doesn't even really know us that took that extra interest, and we think, well, what's in it for them? I'm really surprised at their response. Are we willing to recognize people's pains and needs? Sometimes instead of just discrediting them at first, try to get to the deeper level and ask ourselves the question, is there something that I can do to help? I thought it was very profound that Matthew continues to say that prayers are not being answered because people like us don't allow the Holy Spirit to guide us. Are there prayers that other people are praying that God is asking me and you to answer, and yet we're failing to do so? Whose prayer can you be the answer for today? God bless you.